Memory, 1736. Talbot Grimes' languished gaze peers out from under heavy eyelids. Orange candlelight blurs through a dense fog that descends upon him, tendrils snaking over his limbs. He thinks to pull away, but cannot. He tries to scream, but his voice is muffled. Fog seeps into his lungs. He relaxes, accepts it, invites it closer. The fog. The dark fog. He shakes his head as clarity returns to him. He's in his tent. A thin plume of fog, no, gray smoke, spirals from the pipe on the arm of his chair. Near his feet, a small bowl is broken, poppy seeds spilled over the ground. Morning already. He stumbles from his tent with cane in hand, takes a breath of cold Mongolian air, and stiffens his shoulders. Snow has nearly reached the base of the mountains in the distance. He stands in an expanse of dry, frost-covered grass crunching underfoot. The tents nearby seem out of place. "Salbanu, Mr. Grimes. Your people wait." A small, prune-faced woman looks at him, nearly engulfed by her fur hat and hefty woolen coat. Her polite tone is forced in a way that crosses cultural barriers. "You're late, you opium-addled idiot," is what her voice truly reveals. She leads the way, a scant 100 yards, to what looks like a cellar door in the ground. Her help is unneeded, but she's been Talbot's guide during his foray into Mongolia, and she's willing to see it through to its end. She pulls open the door to reveal a dirt staircase descending into the earth. Talbot gives her a parting nod and steps inside. He works his way over uneven steps, planting his cane into each one. He enters something resembling a room, more a muddy hollow with lanterns placed on the ground. A mass of black fog swirls in place. It's not the first time Talbot's seen such a phenomenon, but it still chills his bones. Nearby, a figure sitting in the shadows rises. "About damn time, Talbot." Declan's words are carried by the stench of fermented milk. He moves forward, his pale face glowing like a ghost in the dim light. His rumpled shirt, pulled up at the sleeves, reveals scars over lean muscles. A washed-up mercenary, too drunk and violent to be anything but a problem. But Talbot personally selected him. Surviving a bleed site with body and sanity intact has given the chemist leverage within the company. His other recruit, Nigel, smiles eagerly. The gentle philosopher's slim frame moves with cheerful anticipation that is out of place in the underground hovel. He's already donned most of his protective suit. It is something akin to a diving uniform. Its helmet, a metallic globe with a glass portal at the front. Talbot has informed his companions that this mission into the fog is one of exploration. But there is another element he has left unsaid. He is observing the realm's reactions to what he calls biological signatures. The theory that a person emanates a unique energy, one that may act as a beacon for otherworldly predators. Declan and Nigel are the test subjects. Memory, 1737. Talbot drifts through the fog, unsure if it's his feet moving or something else tugging, beckoning him closer. He stumbles, but the force doesn't slow, drawing him in, pulling, and then violently expelling him. He plants his cane and brings himself up to one knee, sliding a hand over a smooth, obsidian-like surface. Sharp slabs of black rock jut out beyond, creating a fractured, spiny landscape under a purple sky. Behind him, Declan and Nigel emerge from the fog wearing their protective suits. Even clad in the copper and heavy cloth of the outfit, Nigel appears sparse and vulnerable. Declan, however, stands tall, as if the weight is no burden to him. Useless either way. That such a thing could be a defense from this place spoke to the naivety of its creators. Declan stomps forward. He assumes an attack pose, but struggles to find a target. "What the hell's going on here? I didn't plan for this." Through the porthole on Declan's helmet, Talbot notices the man's clenched jaw and focused eyes. He wants to kill something, assure himself he has control over this strange land. "You knew what you were getting into. It was in the dossier." Declan growls. "Didn't read it." The man is an idiot, but a useful one. Talbot's theory is that Declan's biological signature is that of the aggressor, one whose energies express anger and violence. He expects the bleed will embrace Declan, as if he's a creature native to its environment. Then there's Nigel, the prey. He stands wide-eyed and frozen at the world before him. If Talbot is correct, his biological signature is like a burst of light signaling its presence to every predator around. He is an invader, not meant for this place. The only part that bothers Talbot about his theory is how he fits into it. He is a man of science, not the brutish aggressor that Declan clearly is. So why does he pass through bleeds unharmed, with barely visible wisps of black fog clinging to his presence? Why does he sense that every time he steps into a bleed, that he is invited, not just to where he stands now, but somewhere else, somewhere far beyond? Memory, 1738. Talbot tries to keep his nerves intact. In the distance, there are sounds he can't quite place. In his peripheries, movement he can't quite glimpse. The landscape changes abruptly, as if an unseen line marks the borders of two environments. The group moves into a swampland. Unnatural swirling clouds form above. Hanging from the twisted branches of a tree is a half-rotted corpse. Talbot thinks back to the dossier, Bramburn Mire. Recent expeditions describe it as a swampland littered with unusual metal structures and less than inviting inhabitants. Nigel stretches out his arms as if welcoming an auditorium of guests. "Ah! Our minds are attempting to interpret the fog we pass through. In fact, we're still in it. Such a foreign element that we're imagining it in a way we can visually process. This is all an illusion." Declan flicks the corpse's loose jaw, chattering its teeth. "Even I know it's not an illusion, you fucking idiot." Talbot ignores them, setting his sights on an unusual metal carriage next to a shack. Before he can appraise it, the ground rumbles, tossing him to the ground. Pieces of earth are pulled into the sky as if gripped by an invisible hand. Trees are thrown about like twigs. Metal twists upwards into a vortex. The group watches in shocked awe. Talbot waits for the ground beneath his feet to crumble, but it remains firm. He allows himself to exhale in relief. The maps from these excursions have never matched up. I believe we've discovered why. Memory, 1739. Something moves through the tree line. Its wet, rasping cry calls out. A hideous creature of muck and bone staggers into sight, its clumsy movements unusually fast. It sees the trio and stops, as if pondering their presence. Declan leans forward, squares up, the imbeciles ready to charge into battle without so much as a second thought. Talbot lifts a hand. Slow. Do not provoke it. He motions the group back. With careful steps, they edge away from the creature, but it does not break its gaze. It seems almost content to leave them be, rattling strange sounds from its gullet until it screeches. A horde of muck creatures emerge from the trees. A moment of doubt flickers within Talbot. This is the moment to test the theory, or die. Run, boys, run! The trio take off, clunking through the swampland in their damn suits, each step made harder than it should be. With uneven limbs, the abominations gallop and stumble, a disaster of movement that somehow quickly clears the gap. They cry for blood. Talbot breathes through clenched teeth, chest heaving, begging for oxygen. Pain works its way through aching muscles. He risks a look back and stops. The entire horde ignores Talbot and Declan, focusing only on Nigel. A muck creature leaps at the philosopher, swiping a sharp claw through his Achilles tendon. The rest capitalize, gripping onto the man, gnawing and slashing through sprays of blood. Through the horror, Talbot sees evidence of his biosignature theory. The bleed attacks that which is prey. Nigel screams for help. His arms flail, swatting at monsters that are losing interest as he bleeds out. They leave him with some parting swipes and stumble back, sated, gurgling in delight. Nigel speaks, but the words emerge only as bubbles of blood from his lips. A scene of terror and sadness plays out on his face. He looks to Talbot, and without speaking, asks a question. Why? Talbot walks to Nigel, kneels at the man's side. He observes him through a lens of logic and rationality, noting the lacerations, the blunt force trauma. Nigel's shaking hand reaches out to no one, and in his tear-soaked eyes, there's something so human. Not prey, not aggressor, but human. Something Talbot had forgotten. He looks to Nigel's broken body and feels envy. How unfair that the pursuit of knowledge has stripped so much of himself. He rips a shred of cloth from Nigel's suit, wraps it around a gaping wound on the man's leg, tying it tight. Declan grabs Talbot's shoulder and spins him around. What are you doing? He's a dead man. Talbot doesn't hear him. He tears at the suit, pressing a palm to an ugly gash. But his movements are mechanical, lacking desire. Whatever you were, you are no longer. There's no saving yourself. Better to accept and live. Before he can turn away, the hairs on the back of his neck stand on end. The muck creatures watch curiously from a distance. One takes a step forward, snarls. He nearly chuckles through the fear as he realizes his mistake. The creatures must wonder, why would one with a biosignature such as his attempt to provide compassion to wounded prey? There are many ways a predator could react to the unfamiliar. One of the most common responses? Violence. He taps Declan on the arm. We should go. Now. Memory, 1740. The two men step back, trying not to stir the creatures. It's too late. The horde follows, stalking slowly. Talbot notices it's only him their eyes turn to. They dare him to run. Dark thoughts flood Talbot's mind. He feels the agony to come, muscles ripped from their frame, jaws prodding into wounds and snapping bones. The animalistic desire to live clutches him tight, demanding action. His heart thunders against his chest, muscles tense. A shiver runs down his body, refusing to leave his hands. The monsters advance. Talbot grits his teeth till they're ready to crack. He tightens the grip on his cane, squeezes it like a hand pulling him from a cliff, and swings. The cane smashes into Declan's helmet, ripping it from his head. Before the big man can recover from the shock, Talbot swings again, planting the cane into Declan's skull with a sickening crunch. Declan falls to the ground, gasping for breath, fingers scraping through the mud. Talbot turns to the monsters and screams. The muck creatures chitter approvingly. As Talbot drops to the ground, they turn their attention to Declan. They pounce, wriggling into his suit, playfully tearing off strips of flesh. His head rises with heaving sobs as he squirms ineffectively. A creature slashes a sharp gouge through his cheek, burrows its head into his mouth. His body seizes in horror. Talbot tries to draw back, but cannot look away. Eyes fixated on blood, on body, on prey.
Memory, 4,573. Jane sits at the head of the table, her eyes glazing over as her producers go through the laundry list of story ideas. A dog rescue in an affluent Californian suburb. Long-lost twins reunited at a dentist conference. Cakes that look like things that aren't cakes. Jane sighs, rubs her temples. We didn't get where we are with stories about cakes. I don't want to produce fluff. Do we have anything with some substance? Terrence, her senior producer, squints at his laptop screen. I might have one. A mother in Brooklyn is looking for more information about her missing daughter, a documentarian. Went missing while interviewing her father's killer at a penitentiary up north. Story has everything. Loss? Gang violence? Racism? Jane winces at his blunt and reductive commentary, but leans forward. I'm listening. Well, the mother, she's been doing her own research. And she's saying some pretty out there stuff. She's been talking to guards there, and they're saying some stuff about cold spikes, prisoners going berserk since her disappearance. The kind of stuff I don't think we can air. Let's get her down here. We'll do the interview, focus on their relationship. I'll do what I can to keep her on track, and we can cut anything that gets too strange. Her executive producer looks up from his phone for the first time all meeting. I don't think so. The paranormal stuff isn't going to play well with the advertisers, not our demo. It's a compelling story, Charlie. It will play. Charlie shrugs. We're not live. I'll just have the editors cut anything that is too out there. Then we run the dog rescue story after the interview to bring it back to Earth. Jane starts to say something, but stops herself. She knows how to pick her battles with Charlie. She knows how to lead an interview. Memory, 4,574. Noor Kassir's eyes are wide open as she takes in everything on the busy set. Jane exhales, remembers how overwhelmed she was the first time she stepped on the set of Quick Talk. I know it seems like a lot, but remember, when we're on the stage, it's just you and me. I just can't believe I'm here. I've been watching your show every day. Jane smiles. Glad you're enjoying it. She starts to gesture toward the craft services table when a harried PA comes to keep them moving. We need to get you to makeup, Miss Kassir. Noor nods as the PA guides her away, and Jane heads to her own dressing room. Terrence is waiting for her there, clipboard in hand. Okay, Jane, so the pre-interview was a lot. She's really intent on talking about her theories on the disappearance. I'd avoid talking about the prison if you can. If that's where the conversation goes, that's what we'll talk about. She takes the clipboard and commits as much of it to memory as she can before her cue. She takes a quick look in the mirror, takes a breath, heads to the stage. Her music plays, the crowd claps and cheers. She gives them her trademark grin. After she gets through her lighthearted opening banter, she pauses for a moment, lets the crowd's volume drop, puts on a serious face. Our first guest today has a remarkable and terrible story. One of struggle, loss, and perhaps hope. Please join me in welcoming Noor Kassir. The crowd warmly applauds as Noor comes to the stage, sits with Jane, and the two begin to speak. They start at the very beginning. Noor's immigration, the challenges she faced in New York through the 90s, the birth of her daughter. She struggles to keep it together as she talks about her little girl, her passion for telling stories. Jane barely has to ask a single question. Noor has the entire audience hanging on her every word. But what I really want to talk about is the black fog, Jane. Charlie's voice crackles in her earpiece. Get her off of this, Jane. Jane discreetly pulls the earpiece out, leans forward. Black fog? Noor stares down the barrel of her camera, emboldened. The guards spoke of a black fog. If anyone knows more about this, please let me know. Jane's theme music starts to play, and Noor looks at her, shocked and a little hurt. Jane snaps her head towards the booth. Charlie stands at the glass and moves his hand across his neck, telling her this is getting cut. Thank you so much, Noor, for sharing your story with us today. The PA motions for Noor to come back to the entrance. She gets up, hugs Jane, and leaves, bewildered. Wow, truly an incredible story of perseverance. Up next, we'll be talking to a woman who was saved from a fire by her dog and has now committed her life to paying it forward, starting a dog rescue in her community. Memory, 4,575. Jane bursts into Charlie's office, slams the door behind her. That was an incredible interview. I cannot believe you cut her off like that. I'll call you back, Terrence. No! He can stay on. Put it on speaker. Charlie leans back in his chair, unfazed. It didn't make the cut for the episode, Jane. We got plenty of good stuff at the beginning. We ran that. Terrence's voice cuts in from the speaker. Thing is, the online production team didn't get the memo. The extended cut was posted on socials. All they're talking about is this black fog thing. Charlie clenches his jaw. I don't want this to be my show. This isn't some AM radio conspiracy nonsense. Jane stands up straight, looks Charlie dead in the eyes. This show got as far as it did talking about things that others are too afraid to talk about. You think Morning Today is talking about this stuff? You think Heather would even consider it? We are making something special here, Charlie. People are talking. The advertisers will come. We don't come back from this, Jane. They're gonna paint you with the wacko brush. The next thing you know, this is all people will want from us. Do we have anything lined up to bring us back from this? Terrence's voice pipes up again. Well, here's the thing. Aside from all the noise, we've gotten some pretty interesting calls on this one. Other people saying that they've lost friends, family members, and they're all mentioning this black fog. Charlie sneers. Okay, so what? You put strange stuff out there, you're gonna get strange callers. It's not just that. It's the outbursts of emotion, the fear, the drops in temperature. I've spoken to a few of these people, and their stories are exactly the same as Ms. Cassir's. We're not going down this rabbit hole, Terrence. Jane heads for the door. Send me the briefs, Terrence. I want to follow this one. And one more thing, Charlie. This isn't your show. It has my name on it. And we do this my way. Memory, 4,576. Within a month, the production team had an entire week of interviews lined up. Jane spent the lead-up poring over the pre-interviews, the similarities in their stories, the feelings of her upcoming guests. And each night, she tossed and turned, unable to sleep. She would close her eyes and she would see a black fog encroaching on her bed, or on the soundstage, or under the door of her dressing room. If it were her, who would tell her story? It was during one of these late nights that she decided her angle on these stories. Encourage those who lost friends and family to focus on the memories of these people. A woman comes on and talks about her former co-worker, a timid man who steeled his nerves to stand up to an executive tyrant, long before his disappearance. Jane prods her to remember his quiet, kind demeanor and his moral fiber. How he refused a big payout in lieu of justice. How she and a few friends used to get together every year to talk trash about their old boss, but now get together to talk about the good times with their old co-worker, Dwight. A mother told the heart-wrenching story of the disappearance of her daughter, a promising young scientist who she never quite understood but loved dearly. She spoke of the school her daughter went to and how, after her disappearance, her childhood school took her notebooks and built an introductory botany curriculum from the notes, inspiring dozens of children to explore and appreciate the natural sciences. A young man spoke of his mother, who committed her life to the city library. They spoke of her disappearance, and Jane did not shy away from the stranger parts of the story. How he went to the library every day after she disappeared, and the otherworldly fear he felt every time he went to the basement. But she gently guided him back to remembering his mother. How she encouraged neighborhood children to appreciate literature. How she helped struggling children learn to read and enjoy reading. How she treated the stacks like her garden. And how hundreds of young people from all over the city came to her funeral. A university student on exchange from Japan spoke of an English teacher he had before he moved to America. How the man had brought a love of language and of culture to the classroom every day and made learning English fun. How he and many of the students in that class excelled in later classes, moved to English-speaking countries, and found themselves thriving. The through line was always the same. Strange disappearances, unnatural events, black fog. and the broadcast cut none of it. But the social media feedback changed in tenor. No longer was it about the creepy sides of the story, but people eulogizing and remembering those important to them. The numbers came in at the end of the week, and for the first time, Jane's show is #1 in her time slot, and it isn't even close. Charlie sends flowers to her home. She sends them back. There's talk of awards, and it happened Jane's way. But still something eats at her. She cannot stop picturing that black fog around every corner. Terrence knocks at her dressing room door. She lets him in. Hiya, Jane. Just wanted a debrief on the stories we did this week. What's the network saying? I'm not really here to talk about that. Let Charlie deal with that stuff. I just wanted to thank you. Thank me? For what? Terrence sticks his hands in his pockets, shuffles awkwardly. I got into this business to do something real, to help tell people's real stories. And the past 20 years, working on the other shows the network had in this slot, it's been a never-ending parade of cats who say mama and fad diets. Working on your show has been different. This week especially. I'm really glad I'm working with you, Jane. Jane gets up from her chair, hugs Terrence. Thanks. I think I really needed to hear that right now. Memory 4,577. You've got to be kidding me! Look, Jane, this doesn't come from me. This is coming from even higher up. Jane stares at Charlie, whose usual aloof demeanor has evaporated. He's anxious. Nobody's even talking about the supernatural stuff anymore. You want me to dredge that all back up? And shoot on location? We don't do remotes. I don't know who, but someone on the board is furious that we gave this story air. They want to kill it once and for all. Just go to the prison, show people the abandoned wing, show them that there's nothing there. We can put it at the end of Friday's show. And what if I don't? They gonna try and replace me? Terrence crosses his arms. If they try to pull that, they're gonna lose me and about half of the production and direction teams. Charlie finishes his glass of water, pours another. Jane's never seen him like this. He's sweating. Jane, at this point, you are ratings gold. And honestly, with the numbers the show has been doing, I don't want to do this either. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I want to. Charlie lowers his voice. The way they were talking about burying this story, I really don't think you should cross them. This is coming from shareholders, powerful people. I'm begging you, just fly up there, get a little footage of some empty hallways, fly back. We can charter a jet there and back, have you home in time for dinner. That same fear crawls back into Jane's head. The look on Charlie's face makes it seem like he's dealing with that same fear. This isn't one of those arguments where Charlie won't back down. This is Charlie backed into a corner. All right, I'll do it. Set it up. We'll get this done. But you owe me one. Charlie lets loose a heavy sigh. Thank you, Jane. You're the best. Hey, and besides, what's the worst that can happen? A few hours on a corporate jet and a few minutes shooting? I can think of worse ways to spend a day. Jane bites her lip. Pictures that prison. Pictures the fog. Cold. The emotions. Right. What's the worst that could happen?
The Boy and the Rabbits, 1. Long ago and far away, 2 brothers traveled the land collecting folk legends and fairy tales. Wilhelm and Jacob Grimm were esteemed professors of literature who were always open to expanding their collection of stories. At least, Wilhelm was. Jacob, on the other hand, was quite content with their current collection, so that when they started hearing tales about a mysterious black fog, he argued against leaving the comfort of the university for what he was sure was just superstitious tavern talk. But Wilhelm was intrigued. Wilhelm wanted to know more about these mysterious creatures and people that appeared and disappeared in the fog. Why did this strange fog suddenly appear? How could it do the things village folk claimed it could do? Was it from another world, as some believed? Despite Jacob's protests to keep him safe, Wilhelm gathered his saddlebag, mounted his horse, and promised to return with more stories to add to their already impressive collection of cautionary tales. Jacob grumbled that Wilhelm would end up becoming a cautionary tale. He accused his little brother of trying to escape his academic responsibilities. Wilhelm argued it was the opposite. It was academic responsibility that compelled him. And when Wilhelm still wouldn't listen to reason, Jacob reminded him of their promise as children. Though they were very different, they had done everything together. Wilhelm had said, "We will not leave each other," and Jacob had said, "Never so long as we live." Wilhelm accused Jacob of being overdramatic, like a character in a fairy tale. They would always be close, and one little adventure wouldn't change that. Besides, he assured his older brother that a short separation would be good for the heart. He added that these stories from the fog had captured his curiosity, and that it wasn't a matter of want, but of need. He simply needed to know more. The tales seemed different, yet similar, and linked by a mysterious black fog. Wilhelm couldn't understand why Jacob didn't share his enthusiasm for what was possibly the very source of inspiration itself. "The source of tragedy," Jacob grumbled, accusing his brother of letting his imagination get the better of him. Wilhelm laughed and told his brother to quit worrying about him, and that he'd be back in less than a month with more stories for their collection. But a month passed, and Wilhelm didn't return. And when months turned into a year, Jacob grew weak and morose, with the thought of never seeing his younger brother again. Just when he was about to give up hope, an old man approached him outside his home with Wilhelm's horse and saddlebag. The old man explained that he had found the abandoned horse wandering aimlessly through the black forest. Jacob paid the old man a few gold coins for his troubles. Then with great urgency, he pulled out the notebook and reviewed the tales Wilhelm had collected. Each tale had pages of notes on people and places, and here and there, he found random theories about what this mysterious black fog could be, according to village folk. Determined to see his brother again, Jacob mounted his black horse and began toward the place where Wilhelm had transcribed his first story. And as he journeyed into the dusk, he imagined Wilhelm sitting on the horse behind him, recounting the tale of the boy and the rabbits. The Boy and the Rabbits, 2. There was once a boy who was often ridiculed by his stepfather for spending all his time with rabbits he had raised with his father, his real father. The rabbits were all the boy had left of his father, who had one day fallen sick and walked into the woods and never returned. The rabbits reminded the boy of happier days. One day, while the boy played with his rabbits in a wooden enclosure, The stepfather shouted for him. He yelled like the end of the world and accused the boy of being a sloth, swearing those rabbits were wasting all his time. The stepfather had spent the whole day harvesting wheat, while the boy played with those rabbits. Those damn rabbits. Drunk with liquor and rage, the stepfather stormed into the enclosure and yelled with a voice like thunder. The boy screamed for him to stop scaring the rabbits. At this, the cruel stepfather laughed maliciously, raised his scythe, and cut through the rabbits like chaff. Covered in blood and gore, the stepfather returned to the field as the boy tried without success to put all the bits and parts back together, hoping to maybe save one of his rabbits. But it was hopeless, and he soon collapsed with a shuddering cry. The Boy and the Rabbits, 3. In the midst of his grief, a strange, silky black fog seeped across the ground and into the enclosure, and the Evil One, looking like a gentle old man, entered, asking the boy what had happened. The boy explained what had happened, and the Evil One said he could help him if he so wished. All he had to do was ask. With trembling lips, the boy begged for his rabbits back, begged for justice, begged for his stepfather to get his just deserts. The Evil One grinned and handed him a small leather pouch. He told the boy to pile up all the rabbit lumps and spread the pouch's contents over the bloodiest parts. Then the Evil One walked out of the small enclosure, telling the boy he would never have to worry about losing his rabbits again. The boy then placed the parts in a pile and emptied the strange white powder over the bloodiest flesh and fur. Suddenly, shrieks sounded from the severed heads of the rabbits as hundreds of insects and worms emerged from the ground as if they had been summoned. The insects and worms moved through the mound of flesh and infused the pieces of rabbit with a kind of supernatural energy. Then the insects and worms disappeared beneath the fur and flesh, and the severed heads shrieked louder and louder. The boy staggered backward, clasping his ears with his hands, staring at the horror with mingled shock and disbelief. The Boy and the Rabbits, 4. It wasn't long before a massive, rabbit-like creature rose from the bubbling muck. The boy collapsed in horror as the giant creature, made of severed pieces of rabbit, chittering insects, and wiggling worms, loomed before him. The monstrosity stared down at the boy through its deep red eyes for a long moment. Then it turned from the silent and motionless boy and squeezed through the door, almost bringing the enclosure down as the door frame trembled and cracked under the pressure. The boy stared into the moonlit darkness for what seemed like forever. He could still hear the bubbling, hissing sound of the creature's skin outside. He only blinked when he heard his stepfather's agonizing cries in the distance. He jerked nervously as screams of terror reached him and echoed around the enclosure. Then, the world lapsed into silence, and the boy stood slowly, slumbered out as if in a dream, and saw the giant rabbit holding his stepfather's head in one of its claws. What happened next, no one really knows. Some say the creature killed the boy. Others say the boy and the creature went to live together in the forest. And still others say they walked into the black fog and were never seen again. The Boy and the Rabbits, 5. Jacob dismounted his horse and inspected the enclosure where the rabbits had been slaughtered. He inspected the cracked door frame, and then returned outside and searched the ground. To his disbelief, he soon found a massive footprint of the creature his brother had described as the Ravage. Jacob studied the massive footprint for a long while and figured it was at least 10 times the size of his foot. Then, feeling a sudden chill, he turned to face the forest's edge, looking for signs of the black fog. But he saw nothing, and sighing deeply whispered, "Wilhelm, what a strange tale you've entangled us in." Then he mounted his horse and began his journey to the village where Wilhelm had discovered his second story.